He could barely walk, so they laughed. They had no idea what those legs had carried. This is Code of Valor, where silence speaks louder than words. Gate 14 at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, a Tuesday morning in late October. Thousands of people moving through those wide glass corridors, rolling suitcases, coffee cups, announcement boards flickering with departure times, the smell of fast food and jet fuel mixing somewhere in the recycled air. Nobody was paying attention to anyone else. That's how airports work. Everyone has somewhere to be, everyone is in a hurry, nobody stops, nobody looks, nobody notices the man standing at the back of the security line near Terminal C. His name was Raymond Earl Cole. He was 71 years old. He stood with one hand resting lightly on a simple aluminum cane, not the kind with 4 rubber legs and hospital grip tape, just a single cane, worn smooth at the handle from years of use, the kind that doesn't ask for sympathy, the kind that just quietly does its job. Raymond wore dark trousers, a pale blue button-down shirt, and over it a brown canvas jacket, faded at the elbows, soft with age. The only thing remarkable about his appearance was how unremarkable it was. He looked like someone's grandfather, someone's neighbor, the kind of man you'd see at a hardware store on a Saturday morning and never think twice about. His left leg dragged slightly with each step, not dramatically, not in a way that demanded attention, just enough for certain people to notice. The security line at Gate C stretched long that morning, 40, maybe 50 people deep, business travelers with laptop bags, young families with strollers and snacks, college students with earbuds in and eyes down. Raymond joined the back of the line quietly. He didn't make eye contact with anyone. He didn't ask for special treatment. He just waited like everyone else. 3 minutes passed, then 5, then the woman in front of him turned around. Her name, based on the luggage tag swinging from her designer carry-on, was Melissa. Mid-30s, expensive blazer, highlighted hair pinned back with practiced precision, the kind of woman who checked her phone every 45 seconds and exhaled loudly at any delay longer than 30 seconds. She glanced at Raymond once, then again, then turned to the man beside her, a colleague in a matching blazer, and said something behind her hand. Both of them smiled, not warmly. Raymond didn't react. He moved forward as the line shifted, slowly, carefully, the cane finding the floor with each step. That's when Melissa spoke loud enough for the people around her to hear. "These express lanes exist for a reason," she said, not quite to Raymond, not quite away from him. "Some of us have connections to catch." A few people nearby shifted uncomfortably. One young woman in a yellow scarf looked up from her phone with a slight frown. Nobody said anything. Raymond's face remained completely still, not angry, not embarrassed, not searching for anyone's reaction, just still, the way still water is still. 5 more minutes passed. The line moved slowly. Melissa checked her phone again, exhaled again, then turned fully this time toward Raymond and said it directly. "Sir, if you need a wheelchair service, there's a number you can call. You're holding up the line." Several heads turned. Raymond looked at her. Just looked. His eyes were dark and steady, clear, the eyes of a man who had looked at things far worse than inconvenience and simply continued standing. "I'm fine, thank you," he said quietly, evenly. 2 words, no anger in them, no trembling, just a flat, complete refusal to perform distress for an audience. Melissa turned back around with a small, tight smile, as if she'd handled something, as if she'd been efficient, as if this had been a management decision rather than a cruelty. Her colleague leaned in and murmured something. She laughed once, short and dismissive. The young woman in the yellow scarf watched Raymond with something complicated in her expression. She looked like she wanted to speak, opened her mouth slightly, then closed it and looked back at her phone. Raymond said nothing. He moved forward. Who is this man? What is in that worn jacket? What did those legs carry before they needed a cane? Stay with us. At the security screening belt, Raymond placed his cane carefully to the side, removed his jacket, folded it with slow, deliberate precision, placed it in the grey bin, placed his shoes beside it. He walked through the scanner. It beeped. The TSA officer, a young man with the bored energy of someone 3 hours into an 8-hour shift, waved him toward the secondary screening area with 2 fingers. Raymond walked to the designated square and stood with his arms slightly out. Melissa and her colleague had already moved through but stopped nearby, watching. The officer ran the wand across Raymond's torso. It beeped again at his left side. "Sir, do you have any metal implants?" the officer asked. "Shrapnel," Raymond said. The officer blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Shrapnel," Raymond repeated calmly. "Left side, been there since 1972. A beat of silence, then the officer nodded and finished. "You're clear, sir. Thank you." Raymond collected his jacket, put it back on, picked up his cane. Melissa had heard the exchange. She glanced at her colleague, something flickering across her face. Not quite guilt, not quite recalculation, but it passed. People see what they want to see, and what Melissa saw was an old man moving too slowly toward her gate. Gate 14 was crowded, rows of seats nearly full, families spread across chairs, a TV on the wall playing silent news. Raymond found a single empty seat near the window, sat carefully, set his cane aside, looked out at the tarmac for a moment, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a small worn paperback, opened it, and began to read. Around him, the gate hummed with noise, children, announcements, rolling bags, but nobody spoke to him, nobody sat next to him. The seat beside him remained empty, even as others filled. Sometimes people aren't intentionally cruel, they're just absent, moving through life on autopilot, blind to what's right beside them. 20 minutes passed. Raymond read. Then Melissa settled into a seat 2 rows away, talking with her colleague about work, about meetings, about clients. At some point, without much thought, she glanced at Raymond again and said, just loud enough, "I genuinely don't understand why they don't have a separate boarding process. It holds everyone up." Her colleague nodded absently. Raymond turned a page. His face didn't change. Boarding was called at 10:47 a.m., Group 1, then Group 2. Raymond was Group 4. When his turn came, he joined the line, handed over his pass. The gate agent scanned it, paused, looked at the screen, then at him. Something changed in her expression. She handed it back with both hands and said quietly, "Sir, thank you. Have a good flight." Raymond nodded and walked down the jetway. The plane was smaller, 2 seats on each side. He found his seat, lifted his bag with effort, settled in by the window. Melissa sat 4 rows behind. The door closed, announcements began, then something unexpected. The captain's voice came over the speaker, routine at first, then different. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we depart, we have someone aboard who deserves acknowledgement. Seated in 4A is Mr. Raymond Earl Cole." The cabin fell silent as the captain listed his service. 3 tours, Vietnam and Cambodia, the Silver Star, Bronze Stars, the Purple Heart. Silence, then applause, real applause, spreading row by row. Raymond looked out the window, jaw tightening slightly, gave a small nod. That was all. 4 rows back, Melissa sat frozen, staring at the back of his seat, at the jacket, the cane. Everything on her face had changed. Silver Star, 3 tours. Shrapnel, since 1972. A man who never asked to be seen. And she had told him he was holding up the line. The plane pushed back, the cabin settled, but something had shifted. People were quieter now, more aware. Later, a flight attendant stopped by Raymond's seat and handed him a handwritten note. His meals were complimentary. The crew was honored to have him aboard. He read it, folded it, placed it in his jacket. She hesitated, then softly shared that her grandfather had served in Vietnam and would have liked to meet him. Raymond looked up, and for the first time, something softened in his face. Not quite a smile, something quieter. "Tell his memory thank you," he said. 30 minutes before landing, Melissa stood and walked forward. She stopped beside his seat, her composure gone, just human now. "I owe you an apology, sir," she said, voice steady, but heavy. Raymond raised a hand gently. "You wouldn't have needed to know," he said. "The apology would have been just as right if I'd just been an old man with a bad leg." A tear fell down her face. "Yes, sir," she said. When the plane landed at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, something extraordinary waited. Soldiers in full-dress uniform lined the terminal in 2 rows. A brigadier general stepped forward and saluted. Raymond straightened and returned it perfectly. The terminal fell silent. Then came the announcement, his induction into the Army Ranger Hall of Fame. Applause followed, but Raymond simply stood and received it. Not with false humility, not dismissing it, just accepting what had always been his. Because some men carry weight for 50 years without asking anyone to notice. Some wounds don't show. Some medals stay hidden. And sometimes respect arrives late, but not too late to matter. This is Code of Valor, where silence speaks louder than words.